The houses, buildings, and structures we construct don't last forever. However, well-built they are, there comes a day when they're no longer valued or necessary, and so they're left behind. In that act of abandonment, though, they can become oddly captivating. Often, an abandoned location serves as a window into the past, revealing a little something about the way we and our ancestors once lived. There are hundreds or even thousands of abandoned places across the world that spark a unique sense of wonder, and here are some of the very finest among them. Number 15. The abandoned city of Ani. Sometimes an abandoned site earns a nickname that offers a glimpse into its history. Ani, in Turkey's Kars province, is known as the ghost city of 1001 churches. With a name like that, who wouldn't be curious? The once grand churches and structures of Ani are now deteriorating, but it was once a flourishing city with 200,000 inhabitants. The region has always been disputed, and even today Armenia claims ownership of the land. Because of territorial battles and frequent earthquakes, Ani was ultimately deserted about a millennium ago. Ironically, after centuries of abandonment, a mosque named the Menusir Mosque was constructed on the site. Up until 2004, visiting and photographing Ani required government approval. That policy has since been relaxed, and it's now a site open to tourism. The place still feels politically sensitive, but its ruins, silent, skeletal, and powerful, tell their own stories. It's a city stuck between borders, history, and time, echoing with the distant remnants of empires long since gone. Number 14. Rumu Prison. Rumu Quarry may not look abandoned at first, because it's now submerged. Built during Estonia's Soviet era, Rumu was a forced labor camp where inmates worked long hours in the surrounding limestone quarry. Life there was harsh, with brutal conditions lasting from the 1940s until Estonia regained independence in 1991. Once the prison shut down, no one managed the site. Soon, groundwater broke through, flooding the quarry and swallowing the facility. What's left of the prison, along with mining equipment and machinery, now sits beneath the water's surface. The Estonian government decided not to interfere, preferring to let the new lake form naturally. On days when the water level drops, parts of the prison's roof and walls poke above the surface, giving an eerie glimpse into its past. Today, divers visit the site to explore its flooded ruins. Rumu is no longer a place of punishment, but its haunting past remains clearly visible if you're willing to go underwater, which we say you should definitely not. We mean, why risk life? Number 13. Chowoath Yogini Temple, India, has no shortage of intriguing abandoned temples. Among them is the Chowoath Yogini Temple in Mountel, whose design directly inspired the layout of India's Parliament building. Constructed in the 11th century, this circular temple was dedicated entirely to the feminine divine. Its walls were once lined with statues of jeweled female dancers, and every sculpture depicted goddesses in motion. Though many such temples once existed, Chowoath Yogini is one of the rare few that remain largely intact. Originally, 64 niches surrounded its interior, each housing a unique figurine, but today, most are missing. In more recent years, Shiva lingams have replaced the absent statues. The temple stands on an active seismic belt, yet has miraculously withstood every earthquake it's endured. During the Mughal era, female presence in sacred spaces was suppressed, and temples like this were eventually left behind. Chowoath Yogini remains a quiet echo of an era when divine femininity once took center stage in Indian spirituality. Number 12. Cape Romano Dome House. The Cape Romano Dome House off Marco Island, Florida, hardly looks like your standard home. Its bizarre, weather-worn dome structures feel more post-apocalyptic than residential, inspiring ghost stories and urban legends. Local kids whisper tales of secret cults, but the truth is simpler. Built in the 1980s by retired oilman Bob Lee, The interconnected domes were meant to be a self-sufficient, eco-friendly vacation house. Lee spared no expense in crafting something futuristic, but overlooked one major threat: coastal erosion. Not long after construction wrapped up, shifting shorelines left the domes vulnerable. A landslide cut the property off from land, and wave damage quickly followed. Eventually, the home became unreachable. The white domes, once symbols of innovation, now sit marooned in rising waters, covered in algae and rust. Bob Lee's vision didn't fail from design flaws. It drowned. The ocean didn't care about ambition or architecture. What remains today is eerie, crumbling, and slowly being reclaimed by the tides. Number 11. Klein Curacao. You've seen Ani. Now here's an entire abandoned island in the Caribbean, crowned with a solitary, weathered lighthouse that no one visits. This is Klein Curacao, home only to sea turtles, decaying buildings, and seabirds nesting around sunken ships. The island itself spans less than half a square mile. Its battered lighthouse, once painted bright pink, was erected in 1850 to help mariners steer clear of the hazardous coastline. Though faded and skeletal today, it's one of the few indicators that humans ever settled here. Nobody knows how long the lighthouse keepers stayed, but by 1888, it was already abandoned when the German Navy unsuccessfully tried to convert the island into a naval base. A tropical storm ended that attempt. Since then, the island's only guests are shipwrecks and the occasional visitor. There are two wrecks remaining: the Maria Bianca oil tanker from 1960 and a nameless cruise ship fragmented across the reef. Number 10. Hotel del Salto. There are two reasons you might hesitate before visiting Colombia's abandoned Hotel del Salto. First, it's embedded into a mountainside directly above a vertical drop. Second, it's rumored to be haunted by its original owner. Long before it became a hotel, the site was a private home built in 1923 by an architect enamored with Tequendama Falls. He stayed until his death 3 decades later. The house was then purchased by investors hoping to transform it into a high-end hotel. That venture quickly failed. Ambitious plans to expand it to 18 stories were scrapped due to safety issues, and running it as a smaller hotel wasn't financially viable. Within a few years, it closed for good. Since then, the building has remained empty for a long time. But now, as of 2025, the once-abandoned Hotel del Salto has been repurposed as the Tequendama Falls Museum of Biodiversity and Culture. But despite its new role, the eerie stories remain. Number 9. Presidents' Heads. Every American knows Mount Rushmore and its towering presidential carvings, but far fewer are familiar with the collection of 43 giant presidential busts in Williamsburg, Virginia. That's unfortunate, because the craftsmanship in these 20-foot-high statues arguably surpasses the famous mountain sculptures. Originally displayed at President's Park, they became homeless when the attraction shut down in 2010, leaving owner Howard Hankins with a dilemma. Destroying them felt disrespectful, both to the presidents and to artist David Atticus, who sculpted each piece. With no viable alternative, Hankins transported all 43 heads to a private field. They've remained there ever since. Each bust weighs around 22,000 pounds, making relocation a logistical nightmare. As of now, these iconic president's head sculptures have become a fascinating destination for history buffs, photographers, and people from all over the world. But keep in mind, it's not a business or private property. You can visit during scheduled events. Number 8. Bunkers disguised as quaint Swiss villas. Our next abandoned location is not what it initially appears to be. These photos seem to show a lavish villa tucked away in Ried, near the Swiss Alps. And that's what the Swiss military wanted enemies to believe. In truth, it's a heavily disguised bunker, just one of thousands constructed during World War II as part of Switzerland's national defense strategy. This particular villa hides a fortified machine gun post. Over 8,000 such sites were built across Switzerland in the early 1940s, designed to make any invasion effort far more difficult than expected. After the war, most countries dismantled similar structures, but Switzerland retained theirs, even refurbishing many during the Cold War. Some of these hardened bunkers are still hidden in plain sight today. A few have even been converted for civilian use. One now functions as a cheese storage facility. What looks like alpine charm from the outside still conceals the paranoia of another era. Number 7. Sha Chong. The legendary Atlantis may be a myth, but China has its own sunken city, Sha Chong, or Lion City, lying beneath Qiandao Lake. Constructed during the Eastern Han Dynasty, it dates back to the 2nd century and remained inhabited for nearly 2,000 years. In 1959, Chinese authorities decided to flood the area to support a hydroelectric project. That deliberate submersion preserved the city far better than centuries above ground would have. Protected from wind, rain, and pollution, its arches, walls, and statues remain remarkably intact beneath the water's surface. Over 300 stone structures, including grand gateways and engraved carvings, sit undisturbed in the silence of the lakebed. Now that word of its existence is spreading, plans are underway to create a bridge and allow guided visits. Unlike Atlantis, Sha Chong wasn't lost by accident. It was drowned by design. Still, in that decision, the city was frozen in time. Number 6. Mountel Sea Forts. Countless structures built during World War II became obsolete almost the moment the war ended. The Mountel Sea Forts off the Kent coast in England are a perfect example. Though they resemble a dystopian sci-fi city built at sea, their original purpose was defensive, meant to protect the Thames estuary from German naval assaults. Constructed in 1942, these rusted towers once housed weapons and radar systems. They were the UK's last line of defense if an invasion crossed the English Channel. In the 1960s and 1970s, they briefly found new life, taken over by pirate radio broadcasters who operated from the forts offshore. Today, while it's not technically illegal to approach them, doing so would be reckless. The support stilts and ladders are rusted and unstable, posing serious risks. These alien-like towers remain stranded at sea, part forgotten military relic, part strange maritime monument. They were built for war, briefly hijacked for music, and now stand as decaying skeletons over quiet waters. Number 5. Anva Lighthouse. Nothing of real importance ever happened on Anva Rock until the 19th century. This jagged piece of land off Sakhalin's southern coast is uniquely placed between the Sea of Okhotsk and the Sea of Japan. For centuries, neither Russia nor Japan showed interest, but by the 1800s, both nations suddenly decided they wanted it, sparking territorial disputes. Eventually, the Japanese constructed Anva Lighthouse in 1939. Their ownership didn't last long. World War II broke out, and Russia claimed the entire island. After the 1951 Treaty of San Francisco, it officially became Russian territory. What, if any, upgrades the Soviets made inside the lighthouse remain unclear. Today, the diesel generators, radio systems, and machinery inside are untouched, left exactly as they were. From afar, the tower cuts a bold silhouette, but up close it's rust-covered and surrounded by debris from decades of neglect. It still stands, barely, as a relic of Cold War tension and imperial rivalry, slowly rusting into the Pacific horizon. Number 4. Geria Ayam. Officially named Geria Ayam, this abandoned structure in Magelang earned its nickname, the Chicken Church, because of its bizarre bird-like shape. The entire building was the vision of one man, Daniel Alamsya, who claimed to be guided by a divine dream instructing him to build a place of worship. He began construction in the 1990s, working mostly alone, with the intention of creating a sanctuary for all faiths. The upper floors held religious services, while the lower sections were used for community support, including addiction recovery. Unfortunately, Daniel's idealism couldn't sustain the project. He lacked the funds for maintenance, and within a decade, the church fell into disrepair. Mold spread across the dome, paint chipped, and the once unusual structure became a decaying silhouette. Today, it sits half-concealed by trees, haunting and silent. What started as a dream of unity now appears ghostly and surreal, less like a sacred space and more like a forgotten monument to impossible ambition. Number 3. The Rockahula Water Park. If you grew up in California during the 1970s or 80s, chances are you've got historic memories of visiting the Rockahula Water Park in Newberry Springs, formerly known as Lake Dolores Water Park. It was the brainchild of Bob Byers, a local entrepreneur who opened it in the 1960s as a getaway for families, complete with slides, swimming pools, and a man-made lake at its core. It flourished for over 20 years, but by the mid-1980s, rising expenses and dropping attendance began to hurt business. Bob probably should have expected that pumping water into the Mojave Desert would become a financial nightmare. By 1990, the numbers stopped adding up, and the park closed. It reopened in 1998 after a multi-million-dollar renovation, but lasted only one more year before a serious slide accident led to a massive lawsuit and its second permanent closure. Today, the once busy park lies sun-bleached, fractured, and deserted. Number 2. Hutuwan Village. Hutuwan, on Shengshan Island off China's eastern coast, might be the greenest abandoned town on Earth. Not because of its eco-credentials, but because it's been almost completely swallowed by plant life. Once a thriving fishing village just 40 miles from Shanghai, it was home to around 2,000 people. By the early 1990s, dwindling fish stocks and an inaccessible harbor forced residents to leave in search of better opportunities. Since then, nature has moved in without hesitation. Vines now blanket homes, roofs, staircases, and alleys. Inside many buildings, furniture and personal belongings remain untouched, as if their owners had stepped out and never returned. Though silent, the village is strangely intact, just buried under layers of green. Photographers and travelers occasionally make the difficult journey to see it, but there are no services, no restoration plans, and no permanent inhabitants. Hutuwan stands as a vivid reminder of how quickly civilization vanishes when nature is left to reclaim its space. Number 1. Klemanskop in Namibia rose just as quickly as it fell. Before 1908, it was a patch of desert until a railway worker stumbled upon a diamond in the sand. Within months, prospectors poured in, followed by homes, shops, casinos, and even the Southern Hemisphere's first X-ray station. For a short time, it was the richest diamond town on Earth. But as with most booms, the bust came just as fast. During World War I, diamond prices collapsed, and larger, higher-quality stones were discovered further south in Oranjemund. The population abandoned Klemanskop almost overnight. By 1956, it was completely deserted. Now, the desert wind drags sand through every broken window and doorway. Houses are half filled with dunes, their paint blistered by the heat. There's no sound but the shifting wind. The town's bones remain, bathtubs, staircases, glass, but its spirit is long gone. What's left is a ghost town buried beneath the same sands that once made it rich. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.